welcome to Recreate Pods. This is Hunted AU Season 3, Episode 1, Breakdown.
I'm your host, Teresa.
And I'm your other host, Michael. Welcome. So the Hunted Season 3. Why do we like Hunted so much?
Well, I think for you, you've always, imagined yourself as like a Jason Bourne.
I do.
He has his fantasies.
I am. Yep. I check my exits whenever I go into a cafe.
Well, I guess for me, the reason why I like it is it gives us an idea of like real time what you would do if you are a fugitive and the measures. Yeah, it's a very interesting thought process. The stuff that you have to go through.
Yeah, and it really lives out that fantasy of being a criminal and of being law enforcement on both sides. It really fleshes
for those
out
that don't know, the
details
premise of
what
The
life
Hunted is that
on the run would be like, and
roughly
it
20
does it
people
really
have to
well in a
evade
nice,
capture for 21
dramatic
days.
way.
They get given a very limited amount of resources, a few $100s on a card, some cash, and they have to evade capture from a professional team of hunters who are comprised of military, police, special forces from around the world, very highly skilled hackers, IT people, social media experts. And if they are able to evade capture for 20 days, they get to keep the $100,000.
And in season 3, we see that they've added the addition of a bank heist, which makes it very exciting. So now teams, they have to break into a bank, make off with the loot, and they have to hold on to that cash. And whoever can actually evade capture until the end actually gets to keep the cash.
Yeah, and I think they get to perhaps use that money during their evasion, which is really interesting. Maybe they can use that money to bribe, get out of trouble, pay for accommodation. In the past, they had very limited resources. Now it's a matter of can they ration those resources because that's their prize money, which adds a nice little twist. And so we're quickly introduced to the new aspect of this season's show, The Heist. And it's just like out of your typical, Ocean's 11 crime caper. A bunch of fugitives walking into a warehouse with a map and a bunch of strings pointing to different photos and recon. It's really cinematic and really nicely done, I thought.
Some of the standout couples that we've noticed are father and daughter duo, which is Bobby and Tanisha. They seem to get along really well. I think it's always nice when you have a father and child,
Very good
dynamic.
chemistry.
Yeah, very good chemistry. I've always liked seeing these kinds of dynamics in the show.
We also get Joanna and Lee, UFC fighters and MMA, not UFC, but MMA fighters, who proclaim that they're going to be the strongest and fittest. I don't know how much fitness really helps in this show. I think it's more about evasion and tactics rather than out muscling these guys, but we'll see.
We also have some friend couples. So we've got blonde friends, they've both got blonde hair. They're JD and Tala.
From Gold
Taylor,
Coast.
yes. And then also best friends, Romanee and Chelsea. And they both say that because they're both farmers, so they say that their attitudes and their resilience will actually help them get through this season of Hunted. And it'll be interesting to see how far they come along.
I wonder if they're going to have the tech savvy of some of the other teams being farmers. Not saying that farmers don't have a lot of savvy with that stuff.
And
but,
so we open in on
this is an
everyone
urban
circling around the
environment.
map
I wonder
like
how
Ocean's
they'll
11.
adjust
And
to that.
everyone is
And
being
so
deferential.
they
Everyone's afraid to
circle
speak
around the
up,
map and immediately sort of feeling their way through it, measuring each other up, and straight away Bobby takes charge, it seems. He's Danny Ocean.
Well, I think he's
Clooney.
probably like the oldest person in the group, and his experience, he was once a chief operation officer, and I think people look up to him naturally.
Yeah,
and he
natural
seems
leader.
and he seems to be very comfortable in that position of being a leader.
Yeah, and what we quickly uncover is that everybody this season sort of has very unique skill sets that are specific to this kind of task at hand. Like one of the contestants, her father was a safe cracker, incredibly enough. Another one works at a bank.
We also have a guy who's a rally driver. I mean that's a very
Getaway driver,
yeah,
yeah.
that's a very interesting job.
Very interesting skill set. Each of them have that really, just like a Ocean's 11 film where you have, an explosive guy, a thief, a pickup artist, con men, different guys with different skills. They've clearly cast this show with people with specific trades or skills that really fit into this show, which is really cool.
Yeah, I think so. And I think it's a departure from the previous 2 seasons because the occupations that the contestants had from season 2, they tend to be more generic. Some were like housewives or retirees. Whereas this season, it seems like everyone has a role that they want them to play.
Yeah, a real sort of archetype character from a movie almost. Yeah.
And we also see that the show introduces the staff at Hunted HQ this time, like giving each person a background about the information, like where they come from and, what they do.
Yeah, really building them up as characters this time rather than just, talking heads. I think that's really good storytelling. I think the more that we get invested in the characters, that's good filmmaking, whether it's reality or film. You need to know the people behind it, even if they give some background about this guy, his family, and so on. That really fleshes out the story, and I enjoy that. So we're getting a little bit more of that this year. We get introduced to the new squad leaders. So David Craig from seasons 1 and 2, the former chief, has stepped aside, and Reese Diwa has stepped up. Ben Owen from UK is into the show. We have some familiar faces, especially the IT guys.
I think he's become a little bit of a rock star in his own right.
Yeah, his ponytail is looking slick this year. He's getting sexier each season. I think he's upping his glow up. Definitely looking better this year.
The first challenge is to pick who in your team is going to be a robber and who's going to be the driver for the getaway car. Which would you pick?
I would prefer to be the getaway driver. I think I like sim racing. I like go-karting. Definitely prefer to be the getaway driver. You can go into the bank and handle all the safe cracking. That seems hard.
Well, that's what I thought. But as we watched the show, we start to see that there's actually a lot of tools that you need to use, such as drilling holes, wire cutting. And that got me thinking that actually you might be better doing the robbing of the bank because that actually needs quite a bit of muscular force that I might not have. And I should actually drive the car because I'm the safer one.
Yeah, okay, you're probably less likely to catch a fine too. Okay, fair enough. My parking's not the best. And then we see the people actually practicing with the tools, trying on costumes, masks, outfits. Any outfits or masks that you would go with?
Probably the cute cat one. I think as all the girls
Nice.
have picked. Yeah. For some
Nice.
reason, we all seem to like that avatar when we go on Instagram.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, and they have very overall very Money Heist, the Spanish Netflix show look about them. Very, very interesting motifs there. I think I'd go the Jabberwockies masks just in case if I got caught, I could bust out some moves and pretend I was there dancing. But nevertheless, we go on to the heist, and it's a nerve-wracking affair. We see them struggling to cut open the wire gates, sawing the bars. It's tense stuff, and it's really well cut, really well scored. Very much a cinematic flavor that we're getting this year that we didn't have in past seasons. It really does feel like a movie scene. They've done well.
One of the things that I did notice was that when you actually break into the building, the silent alarm goes off. And I thought that they would all should have agreed that, oh, we all do that at the same time rather than one team goes in first, which trips off the alarm for everyone.
Yeah, they mentioned that before, which I was surprised they didn't coordinate this. They should have waited until all teams were on standby, ready to access, and popped in at once rather than breaking the window, alerting Hunter HQ, and then, while the other team hasn't even breached the fence. I think this was a massive blunder on their part. But then we cut straight to Hunter HQ. They're all in their Jason Bourne, Pamela Landry poses. Really good acting here. This is really cinematic stuff. I enjoyed this, where they're just like, oh, you're kidding me. Bank robbery? Where? Ballarat? Fantastic stuff.
So the question I always have is this actually filmed in real time? What do you think?
Oh, this is all performance. This is like they're doing their best Ed Norton, Joan Allen performance here. This is acting, I think. Anyway, I might be proven wrong. I'd love to hear from someone on production, but either way, it's slick. This is cool. I like this. It really gives you a feel like a real crime is going on, and these guys are on the job.
Yeah, I think because you have to take into account that there has to be cameras there, and they have to be like, okay, Ben, you need to speak now. You have to prepare. You can't just do things on the fly and expect the cameras
No.
to be there to capture it
Not with
as
this,
you want.
not with this level of slick production. No, but as I said, really well done. It adds another level of theater and drama that we weren't getting in past seasons. Last seasons, it felt like a reality TV show, like, Survivor. This feels like a movie. This is really cinematic stuff. I mean, it's good. This is taking a step up, I think, for the show. So kudos to production. And so we get into the heist, and it's a bit of a fiasco. They are very inefficient, it seems, but it's a panicked situation.
I think it's hard in situations like this when the alarm is going off.
Oh, man,
you are tense. This
Yeah.
is not something you've practiced.
No, and we see them really clashing as to the best way to open these safes. One guy suggests using the crowbar, but they're not heeding his suggestions, and they're just banging on it with mallets and hammers.
And it's actually really hard to get these doors open because once the door smashes in, it's very hard to pull them out to
It
get the
is,
cash.
and we see, but when he approaches it with a crowbar, they just pop open like tin cans, and yeah, it's tough going in there. It doesn't feel like they're going to get away with all the money. It's very slickly edited to make it seem like time is against them.
And I think that's one thing that the show does very well. It makes it seem like the hunters are always just right there, ready to pounce
Yeah.
on them. But after that, we then
Compression
see,
of time.
yeah, it's a compression of time where we
Mm.
see they've actually gotten away, that they actually are quite a lot further behind than we imagine.
Yeah. And then we also see the other team who is doing more the register section. And I feel like there was a bit of a stuff up here. They have a safe and they have several tills. Now the safe has to be cracked, whereas the tills just need to be popped open. What do? They go for the easy money first rather than approaching the safe first. Look, when I have a task, if I'm cooking pasta, I boil the water before I get the ingredients out. You know what I'm saying? Because that takes 10 minutes. I feel like there was a missed opportunity here. They should have worked on the safe first, get the keys while another contestant starts to pop open the tills. You can do the quick task in the background.
Yeah, yeah. And I think allocate maybe one or two people to find the key because that obviously is the one that's going to take the longest time.
Yeah.
The safe, probably a little bit of
Mismanagement. or
Mismanagement,
something.
yeah.
And one of the contestants asks, "Can you crack a safe?" And the contestant says, "No, I cannot crack a safe," which is funny because in the previous scene, she had talked about how her father used to crack safes and how she was going to have a crack at cracking safes. She does not. Anyway, they go on, and unfortunately, they leave a little bit of money in the kitty jar. I think they walk away with 920,000 roughly. How much is it?
it probably works out to be about over $100,000 per team. So probably about 900,000.
I think it was 927.
Yeah.
I'm seeing here. Yeah. So
Yeah.
they get 103,000 each, which is a pretty good haul. A little bit of chunk change left, but still, nevertheless, really good job. And then we see the hunters arriving on the scene, and even though it's edited to make it look like they were fresh on their heels, the hunted arrive in broad daylight, whereas the team have left at the break of dawn, maybe a couple of hours previous. And we're away into the countryside of Ballarat, the famous mining town, and in a getaway car. This is such a waste of Tony's skills. He's a professional rally car driver, and he's driving like my Uber driver. I don't know. I feel like they could have blocked off the road, done some kind of scene here where he had to avoid some obstacles. Maybe set up a safe. Obviously, they can't actually have him driving and breaking the speed limit and getting away from these guys legally.
It would just be a real safety hazard.
Real safety hazard, and like probably kill a lot of pedestrians. But like maybe they could have blocked off a car park, had him chase away. I don't know. It just built up to be something, I think, like here we have a rally car driver as the getaway. Let's see a getaway scene rather than him just driving on, 80 kilometers on the highway. What do you think?
And I think, again, this is something that is quite in contrast to the movies. In the movies, you always see cars going away. The chase scenes are very dramatic. But
best part,
in
yeah.
reality, it's probably not as exciting as that.
Yeah, and so there is no switcheroo of the van. They don't change the number plates. They don't paint the car. They just drive down the highway, and predictably enough, Helicopter HQ catches up with them.
And that is a very dramatic scene where you have the hunters on the helicopter surveilling them. It's a great scene, I have to say.
They feel like prey. You get the real feeling of them being, overwatched. Eventually, they get to Geelong, just being, suddenly the van pulls over and they scatter like roaches with the lights on. I would have preferred it if I think they should have gone to a car park or a Bunnings car park or a shopping center car park and done it undercover. But maybe some things are kind of held to production and they have to do this so as to give the show some visual. And the hunter's a bit of a chance.
Yeah, and we follow best friends Romanee and Chelsea. So they are the girls from the farm. They are running away from the cameras and they stop to change in a car park. However, the helicopter is still there.
Man.
We see shots of their feet, I think, at the entrance of the car park and the camera crew as well.
Oh, dude.
And I think it's a bit of an awkward scene where you feel like they're trying to change.
Yeah, like Deception 101, if you're going to change into a disguise, don't let people see you change into the disguise. These poor girls are changing in broad daylight and their feet are clearly visible by the helicopter. So the point of getting changed was just lost on them and lost on everyone. This was a fail.
And I think the camera still catches them in their new outfits as well.
Yeah.
So it's kind of
there they are. Yeah. Anyway, they managed to sneak their way out of the car park and managed to hike a lift with Susan, who is a friend. Oh my gosh, have they not seen the show? You cannot use any close contacts, any contacts that you know. They will track.
And she's also in a very conspicuous car, a red MG. It was either that or a silver Jag.
Yeah, neither car is conspicuous. It's like, yeah, I'll be in the Jag or the MG. Oh my lord. Like, you didn't, like, come in a Mazda or something like that. Like, these are the most rare cars on the street, if you all don't know. And especially in Geelong, you don't see MGs and Jags around often, I'm presuming. And neither one is very inconspicuous. But hilarious. And so they go with Susan in her red MG to her house where she swaps from one conspicuous car to another conspicuous car, her silver Jaguar. And Susan then drives them around the corner to her friend Leanne's house.
And I think we're quite lucky in that both her cars, even though they're newer models of cars, they don't actually have the GPS thematics. Tracking on them because that would have actually very easily identified the hunters as to their location.
Yeah, but nevertheless, the hunters are right on their tail. They have a license plate of the red MG and they are closing in fast on these ladies. And so, yeah, they drop off the two ladies at Leanne's house, and then Susan, who is walking back home or just gone back home, receives a phone call
from the hunters.
Yeah.
And it's interesting her approach to them because she answers whatever questions they ask her. I would have thought that she would have just said, "No, I do not know these girls. I don't know what you're talking about. I cannot help you."
She gives it up. She is, I wouldn't say she's a rat, or a snitch. She's next level. She's aiding them. She just gives it up without any resistance, which is hilarious. I think some people, it's interesting how quickly they confronted with people in positions of authority just are willing to cooperate.
Whereas others who have maybe not been so
great experiences with authority, put up a resistance.
Yeah, they tend to be more evasive,
and don't comply with positions of authority. But not our Susan. She gives up the goods in no time. She is just like, yep,
I dropped them off at my friend Leanne's house.
I think she even offers Leanne's address. And
Yeah,
so when
oh my gosh, I can't believe she helped them to this degree.
And so when the hunters showed up at Leanne's house, luckily the girls have gotten away by this time. They actually got to search the house and discovered that Chelsea and Romanee have left their backpacks behind, which is a huge misstep on their part.
Yeah, and this is their kit bags, which have their tents, their clothes,
Their camping
stuff. So they did grab their money so they can perhaps buy stuff, but all of their resources for surviving on the run, such as costumes, camping, survival stuff, they've left behind.
And so I think the hunters were very quick to put tracking devices as well as listening devices around the house. And I think that's a great move that we haven't seen in previous seasons.
This is smart because the play I would have thought would have been just to stake out the house and to catch them coming back. But yeah, this is clever. This is the long-term play. Or even take the bags away from them and cripple them by taking away their resources, right? But this is the smart long-term play. Put a bug on them, wait for them to come back, and you've got them for good. And we cut to Susan holding court with one of the hunters as she's trying to, battle wits with him, it seems. She's trying to hold him at bay and fend him off by saying, you'll never penetrate this amazing group that we've nestled her into. And it's a group called the Real Housewives of Moggs Creek. And she sets it up as though it's some massive international group that spreads from Dubai to Tokyo to Japan. Well, there's 10 members in the Real Housewives of Moggs Creek, she says, and I bet they're all called Sharon and Karen and Lauren. But very sweet. 10 members, I think they're going to crack this on a Facebook group in like 5 minutes.
Yeah, I think. And also we've seen from previous seasons that the hunters can very easily access contacts of the hunted. And it would be so easy for them just to identify who these housewives are and where they live.
Yeah, it's so sweet of her though. She's like, you'll never penetrate this massive organization. There's 10 of us. It's basically a small social group in one small suburb, and these guys are very quick and slick on the social media. They'll crack this very quickly. Yikes. And so yeah, shout out to the housewives, the Real Housewives of Moggs Creek. I hope you're listening and you're enjoying the podcast. Well done, ladies. I hope you managed to hide Romanee and Chelsea. We'll see what happens though. The hunters are coming in fast on them, so maybe this network will be able to protect them. And so we cut back to Bobby and his daughter. And Bobby is a former IT executive who claims to be able to get off the grid within 6 hours. And as we saw earlier in the episode, he's highly competent, highly skilled. These kind of guys that know CCTV, technology, computers tend to do really well on the show.
And to be honest, they are actually one of my favorite couples on the team because I just really like their dynamic. They are a father and daughter team.
Very sweet. Yeah.
They're like best friends, which is what you want with your parents.
She describes knowing him her whole life, which is, well, that's reassuring.
I think ever since she came out of the womb, that's what she said, which was interesting.
Yeah, very sweet. And so they get into high-vis costumes to go to the train station where they meet another couple there. I've never understood the whole high-vis thing. I know in Tenet they say high-vis and a clipboard will get you into anywhere. Not necessarily. You stand out, especially with the camera on your chest.
Yes, you have a cameraman following you firstly, which is already a very odd silhouette to see. And it's something that's very highly visible and trackable. And then you're in a high-vis, but you have a black, I don't know if it's a GoPro or one of those cameras strapped. And it actually looks quite awkward. To be honest, it probably would have been better if you're wearing all black.
They should dress up as cameramen. Honestly, if they walked by and they were just wearing, like, if they just held on to a prop camera, 3 of them, they might get ignored by the hunter's crew. But the fact that they're being followed by a cameraman rather than being cameramen makes them very conspicuous. I'm joking, of course. But this outfit, we've seen it in the past with the high vis. It don't work. Don't play. Anyway, they get sighted on camera very quickly going to the train station and
they're purchasing a Mikey card.
A Mikey card, which is, like
an Opal card.
Opal card or an octopus card, depending on where in the world you are. Lets you use all public transport.
And which we see later on, it actually becomes their undoing because the Hunter HQ actually noted that, and they noted
Yeah, the time of the purchase.
the time of the purchase, and they were actually able to track down Bobby and Tanisha.
Yeah, this is some a critical blunder by this amazing couple. It's such a shame because the way they play this out next is really cool. They then go out to the car, uh,
They're picked up by two strangers.
two strangers who then give them a lift not to Melbourne but to actually to Melbourne, isn't it? They go all the way to Melbourne. Yeah, gives them a lift to Melbourne, which is really slick to buy a train ticket one way but then to come back into a car. But unfortunately, CCTV captures it all. And they are tracked all the way to Melbourne by another father and son team, which is really sweet. And they meet up with a friend, and
At a brewery.
but before that, they do some bus hopping. But unfortunately, it is all tracked by this Mikey card.
Yes.
So they hop from train to train, from bus to bus, thinking they're eluding the hunters, but every single step of the way is being tracked. What did you think? How did Bobek Ivanov, how did he oversee this? How did he miss this, considering he's an IT guy?
Well, I think he probably thought that no one saw him going into the train station because they are in the high vis.
Mm.
He thought that they were hidden from the hunters, but he didn't. I don't think he realized that their moves were being tracked the whole time. And I also wondered as to whether he could have just stayed at his friend's house or maybe even the neighbor of the friend's house rather than actually going onto public transport because that's where you actually
Are exposed.
are pinned.
Yeah. Yeah. Anytime you are in public, anytime you're using technology or a device that you swipe, you are exposed. You are vulnerable. And so avoid all that. Use cash, get lifts, don't use.
Well, even in
yeah.
this case with cash, we just we learned from Hunters HQ that the notes that they picked up from the bank all have serial numbers that can be tracked,
Marked.
and that is one of the ways in which they are going to identify the location of the hunted, and that is a great move.
I've always wondered why they, in bank robberies, they always say, give me unmarked, non-sequential bills. This is why. Because if you can track notes that are from, say, 12 million to 13 million, and you give them that, when those notes start reappearing in the public, you can track them down to a location. So that's why they do it. Amazing. Who
Yeah.
knew?
Well, do you think that it is part of the ruse for the hunted? They actually have to move around rather than stay in one location? Because for me, I would have thought it would just be safer to stay at a neighbor's of a friend's house so that you
Yeah.
still are in contact,
Yeah.
but you're not actually on any public transport or not out on the streets. But maybe it is a stipulation before you join that you do actually have to make a move
Yeah.
every 1 or 2 days to give opportunity to the
And to give the
hunters to
show
track. Yeah.
a bit of dynamism too. Yeah, I wonder that. I think they probably are prompted to move. Otherwise, if it were me, I would just find a hole, dig it, get into it, cover myself, and not move for 20 days. That's my strat. But they move, and I think it proves their undoing. As we see in all these crime movies, whatever it is, the first 48 hours are critical. And in the first 48 hours, you need to get rid of any traces, tracks. You need to get somewhere safe. And unfortunately, in the first 48 hours, they make a lot of mistakes. They rely on a friend who they know. They use public transport. They use a Mikey card. They get into CCTV.
And they stop to have pizza.
And then their final blow, man, they stop to have pizza at a brewery. And so the CCTV tracks them all the way to a lovely brewery where they're sitting down like it's a Sunday afternoon enjoying a pint and a pizza. This is my worst nightmare.
This is how you would get caught too, because you stopped to have pizza or pasta.
Yeah, but prior to that, on the bus, they're on. This is an amazing thing they do. Okay, they use CCTV and they get a little screen grab of their friend and use AI to then search up multiple images of the person, any hit of that guy online, which is just unreal. That is scary technology.
It is. It made me want to delete my Instagram and social media social media profile straight away.
Oh man, it is terrifying. Wow, this technology, they can track you like that. They can, wow.
Scary stuff, especially with AI being able to fill out all the gaps and trace you. Wow. And so we get back to the pub, and as I said, my worst nightmare. This or being caught on the toilet, I think, is my worst nightmare. They're enjoying a pizza, and he doesn't even get to finish it, it seems, before Hunter come in and tap him on the shoulder. This is an easy rack.
And I think they had their backs faced towards the entrance too, because they were just
Oh.
about to map out where they were going to go next, the next destination. But just in an unlucky nick of time, the hunters
I
came on and were just
know.
able to pounce on them in a moment of
Of-
unpreparedness.
Yeah, because they were having beer and pizza. This is when you let your guard down. This is their undoing. This was, oh man, this was tragic. Greek tragedy. Weaken you with beer and pizza, and then get hunted and caught. They had their backs to the door. They didn't have their bags prepared in a getaway car. They let themselves down on this one, which is a real shame because I think they showed real potential as a team to do a lot of things and to go far.
Yeah. And I think, well, this is a great victory. Like first day on the job, and Hunted HQ have got their first couple.
Their first scalp,
It's a great achievement.
Yeah, and an exciting start to the show. We look forward to more. We hope you look forward to it with us. We'll be watching episode 2 shortly, and we'll have a breakdown of that in the coming days. Hope you guys stay with us for all of it.
And this is Teresa.
This is Michael.
And this is the Recreate podcast, and we look forward to hearing from you soon.
Bye.